Prime Minister Christie leads a specially formed committee to deal with the Ebola issue. I'm Clint Watson. Find out what they had to say ahead in the Bahamas tonight.
Dozens of illegal migrants apprehended during a roundup here in the Joe Farrington Road area. That story coming up in the Bahamas tonight.
And find out why these men appeared in court today. The Bahamas tonight, the National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Every Day.
The government says the country is prepared should Ebola make its way to our shores. Good evening, everyone. I'm Keish Latterly.
And good evening, Bahamas. I'm Altaviz Munnings. A national approach to fight the deadly Ebola disease is being spearheaded by the Prime Minister and a special task force he's put together to address this global threat. Well, today they met for the third time after being formed a week ago. And our Clint Watson was able to get an update from that meeting and fills us in on the details.
Ebola is perhaps a greater threat to the Bahamas as an archipelagic nation, more so than any other country in our region.
And with that in mind, Prime Minister the Right Honorable Perry Christie says his government is treating this issue with the utmost national importance as he considers the threat of Ebola a national security issue. More than 24 international air and seaports and 6 million visitors annually, mostly from the U.S., which has had cases of Ebola, makes our nation more susceptible than others. The necessary steps taken are extensive and comprehensive, hopefully leading to this assurance.
We are prepared. If we had a case tomorrow, we are prepared.
Health Minister Dr. Perry Gomez is quite familiar with dealing with infectious diseases. As a specialist who has gained international recognition for his work, he believes facilities like PMH are ready to handle any case and have the capacity, mechanism, and staff to deal with Ebola, thanks to its new critical care block.
We have faced the HIV epidemic in this country. Lethal disease, infectious disease. And we took care of them. And the Bahamas is still standing strong. I don't see any difference in tackling Ebola. We will succeed.
The national response has also been congratulated by the World Health Organization and Pan American Health Organization's representative on the task force, Dr. Jerry Eikemans.
There's no reason for panic. And I just want to give the example of two countries in West Africa where there was an introduction of Ebola. It's Senegal and Nigeria, countries that are not as prepared as the Bahamas, where we managed with the right interventions to control and to now have declared again the countries Ebola free. So there is no need for this massive panic, and I am very proud to be part of this. And
already the Bahamas has had the opportunity to test its response. Staff who have been involved in training for the Ebola virus since July were faced with a suspected case which turned out to be malaria when the U.S. Coast Guard airlifted a Ukrainian from a freighter to the capital last month who became extremely ill. Officials say the private and public sector worked in tandem to properly deal with the matter. Since then, improved measures have been added to the protocol. Mr. Christie assures Bahamians the government is taking all necessary steps using its own resources and are also in touch with Cuba and the U.S. who have made training and their resources available.
Moving forward, we expect there to be progress to a point where we can say with confidence, and the same degree of confidence you've heard around this table, that we have taken all of the steps that we ought to in the circumstances. This will be particularly relevant to our airports where people are coming in and to our ports where people are coming in. And therefore there's an urgent requirement to ensure that we dedicate every available resource to ensuring the maximum protection of our country.
Now, the Prime Minister has promised that a special select committee will report to the nation on Wednesday at a special press conference. At the office of the Prime Minister, Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
The push to crack down on illegal migration continues despite the government's resource challenges. This year alone, more than 3,000 illegal migrants have been repatriated. And as C.S. Gatterly tells us, the immigration minister wants to send a clear message to would-be migrants that it's not business as usual in the Bahamas.
Foreign Affairs and Immigration Minister Fred Mitchell says they must send out a signal to migrants that things are changing, officials having repatriated more than 3,000 migrants so far this year. Out of that number, 2,582 of them were Haitians. While there's a lot of work being done to protect the country's borders, Mitchell admitted it's extremely expensive to do so.
The government is committed to doing it. We're not saying that we're excused from doing it because it's our job to protect the borders, and so we're going to do that. But just to understand that there's a resource issue around. For example, we've done 2 mass exercises, interdiction exercises in Eleuthera over the last year. There's a need to do another one. There are others that are needed in Abaco. But that operation, which lasted 3 days or 4 days, cost us $20,000 to do. And, so that's the kind of cost that you're looking at.
Mitchell confirmed that immigration officials continue to work closely with defense and police officers to make these interdictions. 19 Cubans were apprehended near Katki on Saturday. In spite of the challenges, the immigration minister reassured that they're working to get on top of the problem.
Throughout the country, there is a demand for law enforcement services. For example, people in North Eleuthera and Harbor Island in particular are very concerned about the fact of illegal migration. And it's not only illegal migration at the lower socioeconomic levels, the laboring groups, but also people who come in from the developed countries and masquerade as tourists and are busy working away when they should have work permits or they're not lawfully entitled to work.
The government will enforce a beefed-up immigration policy. As of November 1st, all persons living in the Bahamas must have a passport from the country of their nationality. Those who were born in the Bahamas but do not possess a Bahamian passport will get a special residence permit, allowing them to live and work until their status has been decided. Currently, the detention center has 195 migrants. Siaska Adderley, ZNS Network News.
While the Ministry of National Security knows that when it comes to the illegal migration issue and undocumented Haitians living in shanty towns here create high emotions, they're nonetheless taking all threats seriously. State Minister Keith Bell telling reporters today that the Commissioner of Police has been asked to launch a full investigation following that much talked about story that aired here on the ZNS Network last week by a former resident of the Joe Farrington Road shanty town who issued what appeared to be threats to Bahamians. Meantime, as that November 1st deadline for the revised immigration policy approaches, State Minister Bell says they will be ready to enforce the law and ensure undocumented or illegal migrants of any nationality leave the country.
Even though the statements have been made and action is going to be taken, the reality is that everything is going to be done in proper order and in decency, having regard that you're dealing with human, we want to be humane, we want to ensure that what we do, we be fair to all persons, and we certainly do what is in the best interest of the country, the Bahamas.
Have your agencies begun meeting on how you're going to conduct this exercise?
Well, I would not necessarily want to say too much about it, only that you should be aware that action is being taken. It's going to be done systematically and in order.
Well, as many of you saw last Friday, our Janaea Noel Ferguson reported on the demolition of the shanty town off Joe Farrington Road. Included in that story, a young Haitian Bahamian offering some controversial feedback to the demolition exercise, which many considered threatening to Bahamians. Social media and the local talk shows were abuzz with feedback from angry Bahamians. What was unexpected, though, was that some personal attacks were directed at the reporter, her professionalism, and even her nationality. We received a number of threats against Mrs. Ferguson, which will be reported to police. ZNS News wishes to clarify a number of claims made on social media, the local dailies, and on the talk shows. Firstly, the claim made in the local dailies that there was an unedited version of the remarks circulating on social media are at best untrue and misleading. The raw, unedited footage has not been released to the public nor on social media by ZNS News. However, Royal Bahamas Police Force officials have requested copies of the interview. Mrs. Ferguson is a Bahamian citizen by birth and a professional journalist with an impeccable record. The comments aired in Friday's story were the opinions of the young man in response to her question, "What is your reaction to what is happening here?" referring to the demolition of the shanty town. Well, a team of Immigration Defense Force and police officers combed the eastern and southwestern districts of New Providence today, rounding up illegal migrants residing in shanty towns in those areas.
And it's a joint partnership aimed at tackling the influx of illegal migrants who are not only squatting on land, but are in this country illegally. LaDon Davis was first on the scene of that immigration raid and has the latest details in this report.
At least 55 illegal migrants residing in shanty towns in the Joe Farrington and Carmichael Road areas were picked up by a team of immigration, police, and defense force officers during a 4-hour raid Monday. Officer in charge of Immigration's Enforcement Unit, Kirkland Neely, confirmed this joint effort is just one of many operations to crack down on illegal migration in this country.
Message to everybody in the Bahamas that as long as you're illegal, come forward, turn in yourself, because you might get away from us today or tomorrow, but eventually we can get you. Okay? So it's easier for you to turn in yourself and let us try see if we can help to repatriate you back to your homeland. We're not discriminating. We're not picking on Haitian and Jamaicans. That's everybody who here in the Bahamas illegal.
Neely revealed that immigration apprehensions will occur 3 to 4 times per week and has nothing to do with the November 1st immigration deadline. Additionally, he provided an update on repatriation exercises over the past week.
We repatriated 229 last week Wednesday back to Haiti and the days when at Jamaica we repatriated back to Jamaica. We sent about 20 to 21 Cubans back home also last weekend. This week on Wednesday we'll be sending another 12 or so Cuban back to Cuba. If you're aware that my officers and I, we had to make a trip down to Bimini yesterday and bring back about 19 Cubans. So we have about, I believe, roughly about 50 Cubans at the detention center as we speak.
Neely confirmed those illegal migrants apprehended in Monday's raid are currently detained at the Carmichael Road Detention Center, awaiting processing and are expected to be repatriated sometime next week. LaDon Davis, ZNS Network News.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Lux Men's Warehouse.